She discovered an incredible truth before the date. His shocking revelation changed everything. Emma felt the familiar flutter of nerves as she rifled through keepsakes in the attic, preparing for the evening ahead, the much-anticipated date with Jake. But as she uncovered old family trinkets, nostalgic memories danced around her mind, urging her to remember her late mother, who had always taught her the values of hard work and family first. These memories created a bittersweet ache in her chest, and then the past revealed itself. A weathered letter about the architectural firm once owned by her family, cutting through her defenses like a knife. The realization that her family business had thrived before crumbling into bankruptcy sent a wave of unease crashing over her. How had she buried this truth all these years? Emma's hands trembled as she unfolded the letter, revealing secrets that crashed into her life's carefully constructed narrative. She had thought herself settled in her role as a dedicated nurse, always putting her career and family responsibilities above her desires, but now everything felt precarious. Later that night, as she sat across from Jake in the local diner, Emma couldn't shake the weight of her family's past looming over them. She caught herself stealing glances at him. His laughter, warm and enticing, felt strangely familiar. Unease twisted in her stomach as she noticed just how much Jake resembled her mother in those old photographs, his warmth and ambitious spark igniting a whirlwind of conflicting emotion within her. As their conversation flowed, she felt an undeniable connection building, the chemistry sparking like the electricity running through the diner's neon sign. But then Jake mentioned the architectural firm that had revived her family's legacy, a name that sent her heart plummeting. Could he possibly hold the reins to the very business that had once torn so much from her childhood? A battle raged inside her. Should she allow this connection to flourish, or confront the painful truths tangled with her joy? Before she could think clearly, they were sharing laughter, but those moments felt thinly veiled under an ominous cloud of uncertainty. Was she being foolish to pursue this? Her body felt heavy, each heartbeat echoing in her ears as Jake shared his dreams of restoring the firm. Yet the more he spoke, the more she felt a swell of anguish rising in her throat. Could she align herself romantically with someone who was unknowingly intertwined with the very ghosts of her family's failures? The tension built in the air like the storm clouds threatening to gather overhead. Emma's thoughts spiraled as the courses of their meal arrived. Would she be able to confess her fears, tackle the wounds lurking just beneath the surface? Or would she let herself cherish this moment of closeness, which stood in stark contrast to the bleak history she was unwittingly tied to? The moment stretched thin alongside her unease, every flicker of candlelight accentuating the conflict burrowing deeper within her. Just as she opened her mouth to reveal the burgeoning saga of her lineage, the door swung open with startling force. A familiar face materialized, sending shockwaves through both Emma and Jake. The specter of her past now bared its teeth, ready to unleash a truth that could shatter her world and their fragile connection. Emma's heart raced as uncertainty tightened its grip around her, leaving her wondering how she could confront the haunting reality of her family's legacy without losing the man she had only just begun to let in. Emma's heart stumbled as she turned to see the ghost of her past stride into the diner. Is that really him? The man from her childhood, once a frequent sight in her family's bustling architectural offices, was now a face entwined in her memories. Michael, her uncle, entered with an air of authority that further solidified her anxiety. As he approached their table, recognition flared instantly in his eyes, transforming his expression unexpectedly from surprise to a knowing smile. "Emma?" he exclaimed, dropping into a seat across from her and Jake. The casualness of his demeanor clashed violently with the swirling turbulence in Emma's chest. She had long struggled with his shadow. His successes had perpetuated the shame that clung to her family's memory. As Jake offered a cordial introduction, Emma could barely focus. The weight of her uncle's presence threatened to crush her emotions. Michael's gaze darted between the two of them, an all too familiar scrutiny she wished to escape. "So, working in architecture now, are we?" His tone was laced with condescension, as if to remind her of the family legacy she had opted to distance herself from. Emma felt the blood rush to her cheeks. She wasn't working in architecture. She was a nurse, far removed from the expectations tied to the family name. "We were just discussing your firm," Jake interjected, trying to steer the conversation into safe waters. Emma's heart sank further as she watched them share a knowing look. Michael's eyes glinted with curiosity as he recognized the bond forming between his niece and the rising architect. Ah, yes. Jake's come aboard at the perfect time, really. We're planning a series of community projects that could revitalize everything, isn't that right? Emma's throat tightened. Community projects? Did he now view them merely as stepping stones, a way to restore the family name that had seemed so irrelevant to her? I didn't know you had any background in this field, Emma, Jake said, his voice dipping into concern as he sensed her distress. Is that something you're interested in? Caught in this web of expectations, Emma hesitated, the truth teetering just behind her lips. The half-hearted laugh she let out only emphasized the dissonance between her current life and what Michael had come to symbolize. What would he expect her to say? Actually, I'm not in architecture, she finally said, the weight of her honesty washing over the table. I'm a nurse. The words felt liberating yet exposed her vulnerabilities, unraveling the tightly wound expectations she had burdened herself with. Michael's smile faltered for a mere flicker, but he quickly masked it. Ah, I see. The implication of disappointment lashed through the air. Nursing is noble work, but I would have thought you'd want to play a larger role in your family's history. A silence fell. Jake's expression shifted, uncertainty knitted in his brow. The air around them grew thick with tension as Emma felt the walls closing in. She could either continue suppressing the trauma tied to her family's downfall or confront it head-on. But even in this oppressive moment, a flicker kindled deep within her. The realization surged anew that she had always held a choice between confronting the past that threatened to smother her and the potential for her own future. Michael, she began, her voice steadier than she felt. I appreciate your expectations, but I have to forge my own path. I want to help people live, not just inhabit spaces. Both Jake and Michael stared at her, the former with admiration, the latter with bemusement. Emma's heart raced not just from defiance but from uncovering her own strength, a flame she thought extinguished. She was ready to stand firm against her family's legacy, yet the challenge of doing that intertwined with Jake complicated matters further. Their budding connection was now in precarious balance. As Emma gathered her thoughts, the swirling emotions coalescing into resolve, another figure stepped through the door, one she hadn't expected to see, sparking a new chaos teetering on the horizon. This time determination surged within her. She was done allowing ghosts to define her choices. What would her next step reveal in this intricate dance of love, legacy, and courage? Emma's breath caught as the figure stepping through the diner's door locked her in place. It was Clara, her best friend from nursing school, the one person who'd known the depths of her struggles and insecurities. Her entrance was like a gust of fresh air, tantalizing and foreboding all at once. Clara's face morphed from confusion to recognition, a glimmer of excitement lighting up her features. It was a sharp contrast to the turmoil swirling in Emma's chest. "Emma?" Clara called out, making a beeline for their table. As Clara approached, Emma experienced a flood of mixed emotions. The warmth of seeing her friend sparked joy, yet it was laced with the cold sting of embarrassment at being found in such an awkward situation. She could already sense the questions on Clara's lips, the anticipation of gossip and support. "Hey." Emma attempted a smile, but it felt brittle. She was still grappling with her own assertion just moments ago, claiming her identity as a nurse in the shadow of family expectations. "I didn't expect to find you here," Clara said with that effervescent grin that had always buoyed Emma's spirits in darker times. "I was just grabbing coffee nearby when I spotted you." Michael leaned back, his interest seemingly piqued. "Oh, another nurse, I presume?" "Yes, I manage a clinic downtown," Clara replied, her confidence radiating. "But I've been itching to get involved in community outreach. Having big ideas, you know." Emma's stomach fluttered at that comment, an uninvited reminder of Michael's earlier words about community projects. It was as if her own decisions were suddenly slipping from her grasp. She squirmed in her seat, trapped between her current life and the haunting shadows of the family expectations looming overhead. Clara sensed her discomfort, and her bright energy dimmed slightly as she noticed Michael's presence. "Michael," Clara initiated, extending her hand. "You're Emma's uncle, right? I've heard so much about the architectural legacy you're steering." "Oh, countless tales," Michael replied, his voice smooth, but Emma detected an undercurrent of condescension, as if he were sizing Clara up as well. Their eyes met, a shared understanding of navigating family dynamics. "I hope those tales include what an inspiring nurse she is," Clara added, her tone firming with conviction. "Emma excels at connecting with people, something often overlooked in architecture." The distant twinkle of hope that once lit Emma's inner flicker melded with a swell of gratitude towards Clara's defense. This was her moment to stand taller, even as the weight of her uncle's scrutiny bore down. "Exactly." Emma steadied her gaze on Clara, then directed it boldly to Michael. "I have chosen a path that aligns with my passion, despite what may be expected of me." Michael's eyes narrowed slightly, a mixture of annoyance and evaluation flashing across his face. Emma braced herself for the inevitable pushback, the sting of familial comments dressed in polite wrapping. But instead, a beat of silence hung in the air, punctuated by Clara's attentive expression and Jake's subtle nod of support. "You may not realize it, Emma," Michael began, his tone shifting, "but the world needs all facets, architecture shaping environments and nursing saving lives. They can coexist, you know." The weight of his words felt like a challenge rather than a compliment, and emotions fought within Emma as if a storm threatened to erupt. Would he bend her will with admiration? Or was this just another round in the battle between her choices and his expectations? "Maybe they can, Michael," Emma replied slowly, her voice firm but careful. "But my journey isn't simply about legacy. It's about the impact I can make today." Clara's eye twinkled with pride, and Emma felt a shift within her, reclaiming more of the power she often let slip. Was this clarity the prelude to stepping into a new version of herself? Doubt lurked at the edges of her thoughts, but determination pulled her forward. Yet as she prepared to forge ahead, a message pinged on her phone, an unexpected twist threatening her fragile resolve. It wasn't from Clara or Jake. It was from her mother, a request that hinted at digging up painful family truths she had worked hard to bury. Emma's heart raced. Would she succumb to the expectations that shackled her, or would she finally confront the truth that could either shatter her or set her free? The air thickened with anticipation. Her choice loomed ominously on the horizon. Emma's fingers trembled as she stared at the screen of her phone, the text message from her mother aglow in the dim light of the diner. It contained a single line, cryptic, yet heavy with implication. "We need to talk about your future, Emma." The tightness in her chest grew, a pressure building beneath the surface as her mind raced. Every fiber of her being screamed to ignore it, to focus on Clara's warm smile or the comforting noise of the diner around her. But the weight of familial expectations anchored her to the spot, a ball of anxiety coiling in her stomach. "Everything okay?" Clara's voice cut through her reverie, concern radiating from her gaze as she leaned in closer. "Just my mom," Emma muttered, her tone barely above a whisper, as if the very mention of her mother could unleash a torrent of long-buried emotions. Maybe it was time to confront the shadows looming overhead. Yet, the thought stirred a deeply rooted fear within her. What if this confrontation meant unearthing the very truth she had avoided for so long? Determined to engage with Clara, she swallowed the lump in her throat. "How's everything with the clinic? Last I heard, you were implementing some pretty exciting programs." Clara's expression brightened instantly, her passion for nursing spilling forth as she animatedly described her plans. Emma listened, hanging on her every word, feeling a flicker of hope that perhaps showing her vulnerabilities wasn't the end of her narrative, but the beginning. Clara spoke of outreach initiatives, a chance to bridge gaps between healthcare access and the community, and for a fleeting moment, Emma felt her own ambitions pulse beneath the surface, vibrant and ready to take flight. "Emma, you should come by sometime," Clara encouraged. "It would be great to collaborate. You have a knack for patient connections. We could make a real impact together." Could she really step out of her shadow? Emma considered the notion, weighing it against the unsettling image of her mother's message. There was a long-held belief within her family that paths were preordained, and any deviation was not just a personal failure, but a reflection of their legacy. Clara was offering her a glimpse of a reality that had seemed so tantalizingly close, but so distant for years. The potential to channel her nursing passion into something larger than herself. But the internal conflict raged on. Emma could already hear her mother's voice, the condescending tone that was almost instinctive, pressing and insistent. "You should come back to the family business, Emma. Architecture is the future, not nursing." Emma's heart raced again, igniting a fire that burned with renewed energy. Maybe. The word lingered in the air, buoyed by hope yet tethered to doubt. "I can't just ignore my mom," Emma finally confessed, the blood draining from her face as the uncertainty washed over her. "Then don't." Clara's response was sharp, cutting through the haze enveloping Emma. "You owe it to yourself to explore every option and not just the ones handed down. Don't let anyone dictate your worth." Those words struck a chord deep within Emma, reverberating through her thoughts like an echo she couldn't shake. Could she truly forge her path without succumbing to the pressures that had always shadowed her? The decision weighed heavily. The phone buzzed again, pulling her back to reality. Another notification. Her heart sank. It was a reminder of the family dinner planned for the weekend, where discussions about her future would likely dominate the conversation, distorting her burgeoning confidence. With newfound resolve crystallizing in her thoughts, Emma took a steadying breath. "You're right, Clara. Maybe it's time to finally face my family and assert who I am." Clara's face lit up with pride, but Emma's determination wavered as another thought crossed her mind. She had to confront her mother, but more pressing was the potential for allies or enemies on that inevitable journey. Would she be ready to confront not just her family, but herself in the process? The challenge ahead loomed larger than ever, and for the first time Emma felt the tenacity to face it. The familiar ping of her phone broke through her contemplation once again. The final push. It was a link to an article about the challenges of working in healthcare and family obligations, the implications of which were staggering. Emma stared at her screen, her mind racing. What truths lay hidden within this digital sea? The moment of truth loomed ahead. The next chapter waited to be written, shrouded in uncertainty yet rich with potential. Would she have the courage to surf the tumultuous waves of her past and confront her future? Emma's resolve steeled with each passing moment, a sense of urgency igniting within her. The diner buzzed around her like a solemn reminder of life moving forward. Clara continued her animated discussions about the clinic, but Emma's thoughts were less about her friend's enthusiasm and more about the daunting family dinner that loomed on her calendar. She glanced at her phone again, the blinking cursor on the screen calling her to read that article. Composed of stories from people torn between familial duties and personal aspirations, it resonated deeply with her own turmoil. As she delved into the content, nuggets of insight surfaced, offering her not just perspectives, but validation of her own ambitions. One story stood out, a nurse who had left a career in architecture to pursue her true passion. The woman wrote vividly about her battle with the expectations of her family, how the burden felt heavier than any blueprint she had ever carried. That familiarity tugged at Emma's heart. Here was someone who had successfully ventured against the tide of family pressure, a tangible example of what she could achieve if she too embraced the courage within her. "I could never do what you're considering." Emma had once confided to Clara about switching fields academically, but the trajectory of her friend's career reminded her of the potential hidden within her own heart. Clara's commitment to her patient spurred an unfamiliar yet inviting thought. Perhaps there was a way to navigate the legacy imposed upon her while simultaneously carving out her personal space. "Are you all right?" Clara's voice broke through once more, pulling Emma back into the present. Their eyes locked, and Emma found herself not wanting to conceal the mess of emotions swirling inside her. "I feel a shift happening," she admitted. The admission felt freeing, lifting a weight she'd been carrying for years. "You've got to trust that feeling, Emma. It's a sign. But you have to act on it too." Clara's gaze burned with possibility. almost daring her to dream openly. As they spoke, Emma was reminded of the doubts permeating through her mind. The family business, her mother's insistent voice echoing in her psyche. But now, with newfound resolve, it was becoming clearer that the only way to drown out the noise was to take action. Her phone buzzed again, another reminder about the dinner. The message pinned her thoughts in place. The raw familiarity of fear wrestled with a tantalizing glimpse of autonomy. The preparation for the gathering would require careful navigation through questions Emma had been avoiding all her life. What if she made it clear that her passion lay outside of the family's architecture? "I can't keep living anyone else's dream," she murmured, mostly to herself, but loud enough for Clara to hear. "Then don't. Be honest. Let them see you," Clara replied. "Even if it means losing their expectations." The prospect shook Emma. What if her mother's approval, a fragile construction upon which her identity rested, crumbled at the confession? "Do you think it will hurt them?" Emma's voice was laden with vulnerability. The doubt seeped into her thoughts like ink in water. Each passing moment ushered in unease. Change always hurts at first. They may react, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't speak your truth. "You owe it to yourself," Clara said, her tone unwavering. It marked a pivotal jolt, urging Emma towards the precipice of her decision. Fingers trembling again, Emma navigated back to the article for support, her heart racing as she prepared to dive into a new kind of vulnerability. Perhaps it was time to transform that pressure from her family into a source of strength. As the sun set, casting a warm glow over the diner, Emma felt a shift in her resolve. Tomorrow she would confront not just her family about their expectations, but the very fears that had weighed her down for far too long. It was not merely about facing them, but about embracing the truth of who she was meant to be, a task far more daunting than she ever anticipated. Steeling herself, she could almost hear Clara's encouraging words resonate. Time to act. As she left the diner with Clara, an electric mix of eager anticipation and crippling fear coursed through her veins. Would she finally take the leap? But there, entwined in the gnaw of her doubts, came the nagging question. What if the confrontation revealed an untold secret that rocked her world to its core? The true challenge lay not just in speaking her truth, but in preparing for the unknown consequences that awaited her. The morning sun streamed through the window, casting strips of golden light across Emma's bedroom. She lay in bed, thrumming with anxious energy. The family dinner drifted in and out of her thoughts like wispy clouds, the blend of expectation and fear swirling in a tempest within her mind. Each tick of the clock seemed to resonate with her heartbeat, a reminder that time was slipping away before the much-feared confrontation. She forced herself to sit up, the sheets slipping away like a protective barrier. Today would not merely be another dinner. It would be a launch into uncharted territory. A quiet determination began to blossom as she stretched, each movement a small victory over the inertia that had held her captive for too long. Who would she be if she embraced her truth? The question lingered tantalizingly, pushing her out of her comfort zone and into the reality of becoming who she truly was. In the reflection of her bathroom mirror, Emma caught a glimpse of her apprehension, the familiar tightness around her eyes and the slight quiver of her lips. Yet today, for the first time, she noticed something more, a resolve that bolstered her spirit. She picked up her phone, hovering over the article that had resonated so deeply with her. The stories contained therein served as lifelines, infusing courage into her veins. They didn't just speak of change, they illustrated it, articulated the path of risk she had so long avoided. After a light breakfast, Emma drove to the office, her thoughts spiraling. The family architecture firm loomed on her periphery, but for once it felt distant, like an echo rather than the drumbeat of her daily existence. Today, she wouldn't be tethered to expectations or suffocated by fear. The clock ticked loudly as she sat at her desk, the same sketches and plans laid out before her that she had so often cursorily examined. As her co-workers manipulated designs on their screens, she felt a flicker of something unexpected, a realization that maybe her perspective was evolving right under her nose. Her fingers grazed the edges of the blueprints without engaging, but it was the thoughts racing through her head that truly consumed her. Was she secretly waiting to be rescued from this life that felt more like a gilded cage than a source of pride? She cast her gaze out the window, the sky bright and endless, a stark contrast to the confines of her desk. What was stopping her from creating something new for herself? Why was she hesitating to voice the truth buried within? A boldness sparked as she gathered her belongings for the day ahead. She chose to confront her fears, not just the outcome of the dinner, but the very roots of her ambivalence. Clara's words echoed. You owe it to yourself. Each syllable struck a chord, transforming a passive reflection into a powerful call to action. Later that evening, as she donned a dress she hadn't worn in years, a soft shade of blue that reflected the sky, Emma felt both empowered and terribly vulnerable. This was more than just clothing. It was an extension of her desire to shed the layers that confined her. With every swipe of lipstick, she was not just preparing to go to dinner, but preparing for a battle against the fears that had shaped her for far too long. As she stepped into the car, her pulse quickened. She wondered about the secrets hidden beneath the surface of unspoken truths within her family, shadows that could be revealed in their pursuit of traditional expectations. What would come to light when she dared to articulate her desires? Would the very foundation of her relationships shift? With her thoughts racing, she drove toward her family home, the weight of anticipation like a boulder resting on her chest. Was this moment the beginning of her liberation, or merely an immovable obstacle? The silent uncertainty buzzed like static in the air. As she pulled into the driveway, the door to her future widened before her, her heart pounding a relentless beat of determination. The conversation ahead was inevitable, poised to unravel not only her own fears, but perhaps decades of familial expectations. And as she stepped out of the car, bracing herself for whatever lay ahead, one nagging thought pierced through the veil of her courage. Was there more to the family legacy than she had ever been led to believe? What if the truth unearthed during this dinner held the power to transform everything she thought she knew about herself? The air in the house was tinged with the aroma of roasted vegetables and spices, a feast prepared with meticulous care. Emma felt the familiar pull of nostalgia mixed with trepidation as she stepped over the threshold. Each corner of the living room seemed enchanted, adorned with family photographs and relics of shared stories, but the weight of her resolve made the atmosphere feel heavy. The walls cleverly disguised the tensions that had shaped her upbringing, and she sensed the phantoms of unspoken expectations swirling like smoke. As she entered, her family greeted her with warm smiles that concealed an undercurrent of unacknowledged assumptions. Her mother's laughter was familiar, yet distant, as though reverberating through the depths of a well. Emma's father, arm casually draped around her mother's shoulders, beamed pridefully. In this moment, everyone appeared blissfully unaware of the storm brewing within her. The sight was both comforting and suffocating, igniting the conflict that simmered beneath the surface. "Emma, you look fabulous, just like your mother did on our wedding day," her mother gushed as she enveloped Emma in a tight hug. Those words landed heavy on her chest, twisted in their intent. An expectation nestled within a compliment. Emma's stomach twisted in knots. The dinner was not just a meal. It was a weighing scale for her personal freedoms against the legacy handed down to her. She played the role of dutiful daughter, engaging in light banter, while her mind worked feverishly to sort through the cacophony of thoughts cascading through her consciousness. Was she ready to unravel the threads of her existence? As they gathered at the table, laughter and chatter floated around her, but Emma remained acutely aware of the tension coiling around her. Every bite felt like a rusted cog in the machinery of her internal struggle. Would she dare to pull away from the comfort of their narrative? "How's the firm doing?" her father asked, his eyes glimmering with pride. "The same, really," Emma replied, though her heartbeat drummed erratically beneath her composed exterior. Would the words finally tumble out? Could she bear to reveal the truth of her aspirations, each hidden passion adorned with the invisible weights of familial expectation? After the main course, the conversation meandered through mundane topics and nostalgic anecdotes, but Emma felt the urgency build within her, a pressure to shake off the dust of silence. It was her turn. It was now or never. "Actually, there's something I need to talk about," she said, her voice faltering slightly. The table fell quiet, curiosity mingling with apprehension. All eyes turned to her, and with that gaze came an undeniable pressure, fueling her courage. "I want to explore a different direction in my career, perhaps outside of architecture. I've been drawn to landscape design lately. Her mother interrupted. "But why? You've trained so hard." The disappointment in her tone cut like glass. Emma's heart raced, but she pressed on, driven by an unseen force. "Because, Mom, I want to create spaces that connect people with nature and foster healing in those who use them. I want to apply my skills in a way that feels authentic to me. I can't keep following what's expected." Her voice barely wavered, a testament to her burgeoning confidence. The silence that followed was deafening. Emma's heart thudded in her ears, her pulse echoing the unsteady cadence of her fears. She could see the conflict flickering in her parents' expressions, a mosaic of pride, confusion, and hidden disappointment. This was the moment that could either bridge a gap or deepen it, and as the seconds passed, she felt the weight of every word hanging perilously in the air. What more would surface as she unraveled this fabric of expectation? She dared to look deeper, not just into her desires, but into their reactions. Could it be that her family's legacy harbored more undisclosed truths than mere expectations? The questions lingered, leaving a palpable tension hanging in the air. And a sudden thought raced through her mind. Beneath the ardor and apprehension of her voice lay another revelation waiting to be uncovered. What if there was something she still didn't know about her family that could shift everything she believed? The moment stretched on, suspended in the charged atmosphere of the dining room. Emma could sense her parents processing her revelation about the shift in her career, their expressions morphing from surprise to concern. Had she crossed an invisible line? Her father's voice broke the silence, deeper and more measured than usual. "Emma, we care about your happiness, of course, but this design path, it feels so sudden. You've invested so much in architecture. Are you sure it's what you really want?" His concern transformed into a question that echoed her own self-doubt. Each syllable struck a chord, resonating with the weight of her unease. Could she trace her aspirations back to an authentic desire? Or was her need to diverge merely a reaction against the pressures she felt? Emma inhaled, willing herself to stand firm. This was a pivotal moment, one that demanded clarity and resolution. "Honestly, Dad," she began, her conviction growing with each word, "I've felt confined. It's like I keep echoing everyone's expectations instead of pursuing what truly matters." The flicker of courage transformed into a small blaze of determination. If she was ever to carve out a path of her own, she had to break the pattern, both for herself and for her family. Her mother's sharp intake of breath seemed to cut through the air. "But are you willing to let go of what we've built together? You could be one of the best architects." The pride in her mother's voice countered with an edge of desperation. This was more than just career paths. It was intertwined with their shared family history, where each success was a reflection of collective effort. Emma's thoughts whirled, brushing against vulnerabilities she hadn't fully acknowledged. She had always striven to uphold the family's values, thriving on the applause and accolades. But was that value still applicable if it came at the expense of her personal aspirations? The late-night conversations, the painstaking review sessions. Those moments, once cherished, felt marred now by the burden they carried. "I want to create something new," she pressed, her voice unyielding despite the internal storm. "Landscapes can provide solace, healing, and community. The very things I felt were missing in my own life as I pursued architecture." The reflection was striking. Using her skills to uplift others through her work mirrored her own need for healing, a longing to reshape the narrative that felt suffocating. In the tense silence that followed, Emma dared to let her gaze linger on the photographs lining the walls. Each picture, a frozen moment of family history, began to morph in her mind. What if the stories embedded within those images weren't merely echoes of expectations but nuances of personal journeys as well? Her family's experiences, Were they shaped only by duty, or could there be hidden motivations, unfulfilled dreams that lay beneath the surface? As she wrestled with these revelations, a growing realization dawned on her. Perhaps her own quest for authenticity could also illuminate paths they had never traversed. "Mom, Dad," she continued, leaning slightly forward, her heart pounding in her chest. "What if we all explored what it means to embrace our true selves? There's so much unspoken in our family, isn't there? Have any of us truly ventured beyond the expectations laid out for us?" The shift in dynamics surged as her family's collective unease transformed into a more profound engagement. The pressure shifted from discomfort to a sort of anticipation. They were standing at the brink of an unveiling, an exploration of what lay beneath the surface. What buried truths might emerge as they faced these revelations together? Emma felt a surge of hope intertwined with fear, an invitation to confront the narrative together, to reshape the family legacy, not as constraints, but as a source of inspiration. This was the only way her future could feel authentically hers. The air buzzed with the potential of unearthing forgotten truths, but would they all be ready for what might follow? Emma's pulse quickened as a single thought pierced through the fog of uncertainty. Could her next step lead to an unveiling of something altogether unexpected about her family? The atmosphere remained thick with unspoken words as Emma's heart raced, teetering on the edge of anticipation. She could sense that this moment marked a radical turning point not just for her, but also for her family. It was a tentative step away from the familiar, towards a territory that promised liberation, but also the potential for chaos. Her parents exchanged glances, a silent conversation passing between them, the weight of Emma's declaration weighing heavily in the air. In that silence, Emma's mind raced with a mixture of fear and determination. Would they be able to respond, to meet her challenge with understanding instead of resistance? "Emma," her father finally said, his deep voice thick with emotion, "this is about more than just you. It's about our family's legacy. I won't deny we've built something special together, but I understand wanting more." The calmness in his approach surprised her, yet it also invited a flood of questions she hadn't yet considered. What if their legacy was not just a cage, but also a foundation from which to leap? "That's what I'm saying," she replied, her voice suddenly steadier, fortified by a growing resolve. "If we don't confront those limitations, how can we ever hope to dream bigger, to expand what we each can achieve? I'm ready to step out. Are you?" Her mother shifted in her chair, skepticism and curiosity flickering in her eyes. "You think that's easy? Change feels like the opposite of stability. You might find yourself isolated. You've got to understand, the support we have is built on common ground. Support should allow each of us to soar, not box us in," Emma countered, her words burning with intensity. Each statement became a brick in a wall, solidifying her stance. Was her mother truly ready to embrace a shift, or would she cling to fear wrapped in love? But instead of backing down, Emma felt herself gaining momentum. "Mom, what if I could bring innovation into this legacy? Design isn't just about structures, it can be transformative, impactful. What if I help create spaces that inspire and heal, spaces that take our history and redefine it?" Her parents' expressions began to shift, shifting from resistance to intrigue. Emma realized this wasn't a battle, it was an invitation to discourse. The stories and memories they had built together could evolve, shaping a new narrative instead of stifling her own ambitions. The transformative notion flared within her. She had been underestimating the power of collaboration, viewing her aspirations as an isolated endeavor. What if she could bring her skills into the familial fold, intertwining their architectural prowess with her vision of design? What if their strengths complemented each other in a way none of them had yet recognized? Imagine our family working on projects together, merging architecture with landscape design. We would merge practicality with beauty, healing spaces where people can connect with nature and themselves. Isn't that a worthy legacy? A flicker of contemplation crossed her father's face, and Emma felt herself lean into that glimmer. Was she tantalizingly close to a breakthrough? Her mother tilted her head as she absorbed Emma's words. "It's ambitious, I'll give you that," she conceded slowly. But what happens when you take this leap? Will you turn your back on us? All the years we've spent building our name? I'm not turning my back, Emma exclaimed, the tension rising again. This isn't about severing ties, it's about redefining them. I want our names to be known for something that resonates, something that reflects who we truly are, not just who we are expected to be. As her words hung in the air, Emma felt the anticipation transform into a pulse of potential energy. This was her chance to dismantle barriers, to navigate through uncharted emotional territory with her family. Yet, the weight of her parents' silence pressed down heavily. Did they share her dream of redefining their narrative, or would they retreat into the comfort of their established paths? Suddenly, her father's voice broke the spell again, softer but resolute. Let's revisit this vision, but first we need to explore each other's fears. You must understand what's at stake and what this means for us as a family. Can you face what might emerge? Emma's pulse quickened at the suggestion. Were they finally ready to peel back the layers and confront the unexamined truths within their home? Could this be the pivotal moment on her journey to claiming her identity? As hope intertwined with the impending dread of unfolding realities, Emma steadied herself for the discussions ahead. The path forward was shrouded in uncertainty, but she felt it beckoning her closer. What uncharted revelations lay hidden in the past that would reshape their future? Emma's heart raced with a mixture of exhilaration and anxiety as she prepared to enter a realm where her unexpressed hopes and concealed fears would collide. This dinner was set to unravel the fabric of expectations her family had woven with threads of tradition and unspoken rules. It was a departure from the familiar path of compliance into the unknown territory of self-assertion. With the lingering scent of home-cooked meals wafting through the air, a slap of nostalgia struck her as she stepped into the dining room. The table was meticulously set, each place, fork and spoon carefully aligned, echoing a perfectionism that had long dictated her family's values. But tonight, she was determined that the significance of the gathering would not be found in the meticulousness of the setting, but in the authenticity of the conversation. "Emma, you made it just in time," her mother exclaimed, her warm embrace enveloping Emma like a protective shield. Yet the weight of expectation rested heavily upon her shoulders, quieting the excitement she felt about this new phase of her life. As they settled around the table, Emma exchanged pleasantries, all while preparing herself for the impending revelation. They engaged in light conversation, her parents animatedly recounting childhood stories involving her and her late brother, stories that echoed the nostalgia she could hardly bear. As the dinner progressed, the moment for her to speak became more imminent. Finally, after the dessert plates were cleared, Emma's moment arrived. "I need to share something important with you," she began with trembling yet resolute voice. The room fell silent, her family turning their full attention toward her. Emma took a deep breath, summoning the courage birthed from weeks of reflection. "I want to carve a new path for myself, one that embraces my passion for landscape design, instead of adhering strictly to our family's expectations in architecture." Her mother's fork clattered onto her plate, a visible reaction to Emma's unfiltered honesty. "Emma, architecture is a prestigious career. You could achieve so much if you focus on the family business. This is unexpected." "I understand, but this is where my heart is," Emma replied, her conviction sharpening her resolve. "I want to create spaces that heal, not just buildings that house. Design can change lives, and I want to be a part of that transformation." Her father's brow furrowed deeply, and for a long moment, the silence morphed into a shared weight of tension. Emma could feel the boundaries within the family beginning to shift, and it was both intimidating and liberating. She'd never dared to voice these feelings before. It was exhilarating to reclaim the narrative that had long been someone else's. "Do you really see this as a sensible direction?" he challenged, a flicker of concern dawning on his features as he processed this unexpected turn of events. "Yes," Emma declared, her voice growing stronger with each word. "I've discovered how uplifting working with nature can be. It's what drives me. At the clinic, I've seen firsthand how healing environments can affect recovery, and I want to blend my nursing experience with design." Her mother watched her slightly slack-jawed before softening. But it's so different, sweetheart. Are you ready to step into a new identity? This could reshape how you're seen in the world and in our family. In a flash, Emma knew in her heart that embracing her truth was essential not just for her own growth, but for their family unit. Yes, and aren't we meant to evolve? I believe entering this new space could allow us to expand. We can integrate both architectural integrity with a focus on wellness in our innovations. Our family names would resonate with authenticity instead of mere legacy. The words hung in the air, heavy yet hopeful. It felt surreal to lay her vision at their feet so candidly. Emma's nerves settled into a warm glow of possibility. The exchange shifted from apprehension toward exploration, challenging their age-old dynamics. Her father leaned back thoughtfully, glancing at her mother, who was visibly contemplating Emma's words. "If we work together," he began, "maybe you could guide us in this new design direction, melding your nursing insights into architectural projects. It could be visionary, bridging both worlds as you suggest." The air in the room crackled with tension, but even more so with the electric anticipation of a future untethered from traditional constraints. Emma's heart soared. Yes, together we could create innovative spaces, landscapes that resonate with our values while embracing health and beauty. Her mother nodded slowly, and she felt the tight grip of fear begin to soften. "Maybe this represents not just a change for you, but for us all. We could redefine our family legacy, not leaving behind our history, but rather evolving it." With every word, Emma understood they were collectively ready to shed the burdens of expectations and embrace the potential for exploration. A cascade of relief washed over her, promising to reshape both her path and potentially the perspectives held within her family. As discussions around new projects unfolded, Emma felt an unfamiliar but empowering sensation coursing through her, like a wave of innovation reversing past troubles into growth opportunities. The heritage she long grappled with now served as a foundation rather than a cage, and her true self began to emerge within the framework. The evening progressed with laughter. The rekindled warmth in their interactions kindled a newfound connection. Emma marveled at how confronting her fears sparked this unexpected evolution. "I'm excited to see where this leads," she affirmed, leaning into the conversation. "Exploring our roots doesn't mean repressing them. It means growing from them." In that moment of connection, she recognized that she was not just unraveling her family's narrative, but weaving in her aspirations, solidifying her confidence in the rightful place she had earned within that very tapestry. As the night drew to a close, Emma stood taller, her foundation fortified by a blend of family support and personal affirmation. She had stepped into her power, reclaiming her identity, and her commitment to healing through design illuminated the path ahead. Tomorrow heralded new beginnings, where her experiences as a nurse and her aspirations in landscape design could converge. Now, fearlessness mingled with excitement as she prepared to explore the thrilling chapters that awaited her, a journey not solely of self-discovery but one of collective transformation. This was a new dawn. For Emma, for her family, and for the legacy they would build together, reshaped by truth, courage, and the boundless potential of their shared passions. You need to subscribe now to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and propel these unfolding narratives to more incredible heights. Comment below your reactions and theories about this thrilling journey of self-discovery. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this powerful conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share. Let's spread the wave of personal transformation.